So maybe you lost your RAR file, or perhaps you just downloaded and found it somewhere on the internet, I don't know. But whatever the case is, today we'll be learning how to break that open. Now, before we get started, remember, hacking is illegal. And the reason why we're learning about this today is because you lost the file that you own. Okay, perhaps you forgot about the password, not because you downloaded it from someone else's computer that you didn't have consent to. I mean, does that make sense at all? So firstly, you have the file. All right, obviously, if you don't have a file that has a password requirement, then what's the point of this video at all? The next up, there are two options available when it comes to attacking a password protected file. All right, so what we have here is we can use something called a brute force attack. And what happens is that we're trying all possible combination, permutation of passwords, different character symbols, upper lower cases into the input field to see whether we get a match. All right. And the super interesting part about running brute force attack is that you can type as much as you possibly can, training your fingers muscle. And the second option that you have is to use all those commonly used passwords. And from all these commonly used passwords, you inject them into the password input field, because that probably has a high chance of getting the hit. And the great part is both options allow you to really train up the strength of your fingers. I mean, do you really want to write a script when it comes to running all this brute force attack? So right in front of us, we're in Color Linux. So this is our best friend now for running all those hacking stuff. So here, what we can do is to first create a file. I mean, without the file, there's nothing to hack, right? So what we can do now is go ahead and say touch password.txt, hit enter on that, and we can say go ahead and enter some value into password.txt. All right, so what I normally do is I save all my password into a plain text file. Sometimes I also write it down, so it's much easier for you to reference from without having to remember any of these complicated passwords. So what we can do now is go ahead and enter, say, Mr. Hackaloy is very handsome. So this is the password that I use pretty much for all of my accounts online. Okay, and in fact, you should set that to your password too. And what we do next is over here, we can enter RAR. So this is going to be the utility that we use to help us archive those files. So here we enter RAR followed by A. And then what we can do next is to go ahead and enter the password.rar and then followed by the target file. So in this case, it's password.txt. Hit enter on that and boom, done. But there is a common problem with this method and approach. If you don't password protect the file, pretty much everyone can see the content within it, even though it is part of an archive. Wait, you don't believe me? I told my best friend forever. Jumping back to Color Linux now, all I gotta do is enter cat password.rar, and you can see right here, we have the content of the information. Mr. Hackaloy is very handsome. So as quickly as that, we're able to get those details. And this new option allows us to set the password. So here you can see the following. HP followed by the password, and of course in this case I'm using password as the password to protect the RAR file. And once you're ready, go ahead and hit enter on that. All right, and here we have now set the RAR file to be password protected. So what we can do now, if I do the same thing, cat password.rar, let's see what we get here. I hit enter on that. It's just gibberish data because those data has now been protected by the password. So what we can do now is we can use a tool called RAR2John and then followed by the target. So in this case, we have password.rar. All right, so hit enter on that and it generates the following information for us. So this is the value that we're going to break open into. And of course, I can save this over into a file. So in this case, let's call it the password.hash. Hit enter on that. And of course, I have to do a password.hash cat on it. I'll be able to see the value. And now what we can do is to use John the Reaper to help us break it open. So enter John followed by the target file. So in this case, I have password.hash followed by the word list. Okay, so in this case, we can use USR share word list followed by, all right, slash. In this case, I'm going to use a common passwords.txt. All right, so hit enter on that. And now we've gotten the information right here. And this is the password. We're able to get the information. And what we can do now is go ahead and open up any of the folder. All right, so in this case, we're going over to password.rar, double click on it. There's a password prompt that pops up. So enter password, click OK, and boom, done. Double click on the password.txt. Mr. Hackaloy is very handsome. That's it. This is super simple and easy to do. And I know this is pretty crazy. And the best way to not get hacked is to not set a password at all. I mean, if there's no password, there's nothing to hack, right?